This is the Rocket City Retirement Show with Cris Wallace. Cris loves educating people in person and over the airwaves. Whether it's retirement planning, investing, tax, or legacy, Cris prides himself in helping protect what matters to you. This is the Rocket City Retirement Show.
Resolutions are easy to make, and we all know they're even easier to break. It's time now to look ahead at this new year. We're going to think about practical goals, and if you could use some guidance on creating and sticking to your financial goals, here's the number for you to take down today. 256-937-2010. You can reach out to Cris for a complimentary visit, a discovery session. All you have to do is call this number or text the word visit, 256-937-2010. Remember, you can find us online anytime at wgfinancialgroup.com. And I am so excited to be here with Cris. He is president of WG Financial Group, where he is a certified financial planner and financial advisor. And then also joining us today from the firm is Graham Bauer, a certified financial planner. So guys, hello to you. And I got to say, Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you, Luann.
Yeah, Happy New Year. It's good to be back in the new year.
It's so weird. I mean, we are in 2025 now. And I find that that's an easier year to remember. Do you guys agree?
No.
No.
Not yet. Give me a
Okay.
couple of months. But I think the thing that has been striking me the most is that 2020 was 5 years ago now. That's very odd. It doesn't feel like 5 years
yeah.
ago.
I never thought about that.
True. You're talking COVID, right?
Yeah, we're about 5 years out from COVID. It really does not feel like that long ago.
Yeah, that is crazy. All right, so we are in a new year, and I know you've already talked about this with everybody else, but it's time to talk on the air about it. Do you guys have any New Year's resolutions?
Well, I'd like to know what you did over the holidays before we get
you
into
wanna
the
do that
resolutions.
first? Okay.
Yeah. Like, what did you do over Christmas? Because it's been a couple weeks since
You guys,
and like 3 since we recorded, I think.
missed you, yes. So holidays were wonderful, spent here in our hometown. And then over New Year's, we went to see my son in Grand Rapids. And his birthday is on New Year's Day. So we were there for his birthday. So we had a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That was great. That's great. We went to, we stayed in town for the most part. And after Christmas, we went to Sarasota. I talk about that a lot. My father-in-law has a little condo down there. And then we didn't go down there for ourselves. They actually had like a family reunion right after Christmas.
Oh, cool.
And it was great. All the family was together, and it was a lot of fun. It was warm. I didn't get in the water because the water's a little bit too cold for me. It would have been more of a cold plunge if I got in. But it was great to get in some sunshine and see some family, and it was fun.
Oh, good. And what about you, Graham?
It's an interesting year. I can give you guys kind of the spark notes. I'll say I spent more time sleeping than I probably ever have in my entire life.
Were you sick?
Yeah, so we took a trip to New York City about a week before Christmas, and on the first day, I had a little tickle in my throat and I was coughing a little bit, but I powered through, and we saw a couple things. And so the next morning, I was going down to get breakfast. Emma didn't come with me because she didn't want anything for breakfast, and we were on, I think, about the 34th, 35th floor of a hotel. So I was in the elevator riding down. Only one elevator was operating correctly, so it was like super packed. We were shoulder to shoulder in there, and I started getting like really hot, and then I was like, oh no, I think I'm going to throw up. And so I kind of freaked out, and I was like, okay, I need to like get off this elevator.
Oh no.
So I stepped off at the next stop, and then the next thing I remember is feeling my head hit the ground. And woke up, I guess, a couple minutes later. So I had passed out, ended up going to the ER with a mild concussion, and didn't really get to do anything else in New York, and it was pretty much down and out. Oh, I also had the flu too. They tested me. So it was a flu and a concussion, kind of a perfect storm. So I was telling Cris, I probably slept 18 hours a day, like 18 to 20 hours a day. I just
like a baby.
Yeah, I was like a baby, basically. Yeah. It was a rough Christmas. So I kind of slept through Christmas. It doesn't really feel like Christmas happened.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's all right. It's, I'm back. I'm pretty much back now, which is good. If you guys hear me clear my throat a little bit, still got a little gunk from the flu. But
oh, my word.
It was memorable at the very least, Definitely a Christmas to remember.
I feel so bad you were on vacation and then that happened,
You were in New York. Nobody pushed you.
Not that I remember. Yeah.
I mean, you see those videos on social media. So kind of wondering, did somebody like trip you or push you?
Well, I will say New York is a pretty miserable place to be recovering from a concussion because, the light and the noise sensitivity is not a place that is known for being quiet and dark. So it was a bit of a rough time, but we're going to go back because
you got to go back now.
I know. We didn't get to do Rockefeller Center or any of the Christmas stuff, but
Get you some of the hair of the dog that bit you.
Exactly.
That's right. Oh my gosh. Wow, you guys. Well, here we are now, back to work, new year, back in the grind for another wonderful year on the radio. So excited about this.
Yeah, it's great. So you want to talk about resolutions? You'd ask about resolutions.
Yeah, have you made any?
Yeah, so I really don't do resolutions. It's just not something that I really do anymore because most of the time you stop doing them. So it's just really more for me about, I guess, establishing good habits throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
But if I have to say one thing, and I've talked about this before, and this is why it's not a resolution, I hope to finish a book this year.
Okay.
I've talked about this, I think, a couple of years ago. And actually, my daughter said something to me, Dad, you've been talking about that for a couple of years now. And I'm like, yeah, probably more than a couple. I just have to carve out time to, to actually get it done. So that's I won't call it a resolution, but that's something I want to accomplish in 2025. But
wait, time out. Are you saying write a book?
Oh, yeah, write a book. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you just meant like read one book.
Oh, no.
Chris, I know you read a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. No. I'm talking about
writing a book. Ooh, I love it. Love it. Yeah,
so it'll be written by me. It won't be none of this ghost writing stuff where you hire this like writer and then you throw your name on the book. So that's what you got to worry about with people that are writing books these days and claiming they've written a book. It's not, they didn't really write it. I'm going to write it because I have a ton of years of experience and there's a lot of stuff that I've encountered, in retirement planning. So I want to put that on paper so that people can really kind of know what to expect in retirement, throughout retirement, and when somebody passes, what that's going to look and feel like. And so that's one of the things that I want to accomplish. But what I did find out was, and I heard this, and I can't remember if I heard it on a podcast or where I heard it, but did you know that the second Friday in January is called Quitter's Day? Did you guys know that?
No, I didn't know that.
It's kind of a real thing. You can Google it. It is usually by the second Friday in January.
Quitters already? Oh my.
They've quit their resolutions already.
Yeah. I haven't even finished making mine.
Well, you're a little late, Luann. We're now recording on the 7th.
I know.
We're like 7 days in. And
I haven't even finished.
Yeah, I mean, other than like ghostwriting Chris's book, I don't know what else I'm really gonna need to be doing this year. I might have some other time after I'm done with that.
And speaking of resolutions, I do have to say this. So someone did come in the office actually yesterday, and we sat down and. I didn't recognize the individual when he came in. Yeah. And he said, oh, we met before. And I was like, oh, it's kind of one of those weird moments where you're like, I should remember you, but I don't. But, we sit down with hundreds of families, since that time. So we were talking. And while we were talking, I was kind of looking in the system because we, keep a little bit of information when somebody does come in, like when they actually came in. So he said he came in. And oddly enough, as we're talking, I'm like looking him up and I'm like, hey, you came in 2021 on January the 4th, 2021. He said, yeah, this is my New Year's resolution. And I said, well, it was your resolution in 2021, I guess, as well. And he's like, yeah, but life happened and all that stuff. So anyway, I just thought that was kind of funny.
I love that. That's so funny. So he was trying it again. Why not?
Here we go.
Try again.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So I think the key to making our reservations stick, I'm just looking at the Quitter's Day.
We're talking reservations or are we talking resolutions?
Did I say resolutions is what I meant. Did I say reservations?
You said reservations.
I did. Resolutions is to make them smart, set smart goals. So you have to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. The acronym SMART. And so that's what I have tried to do. I've made a list and I'm working, like I told you, I'm not completely done, but I'm trying to make them specific and realistic, measurable. In other words, when am I going to do this, right? When am I going to get this done? So that's going to be my thing this year is try to make sure that I get them done when I say, like have a specific date. One of them I have to do by January 10th, you guys.
Oh, man.
Well, you know what? You better hurry.
Buzzer beater. Yeah.
I know. But anyway, so we have to set SMART goals. And so, all right, none of us really have big resolutions. Let's talk about what we should be doing as far as our finances, okay? Because I know it's helpful to make some type of financial New Year's resolutions, right? Maybe not physical resolutions, but financial. What would you say we need to do?
Well, I think the first thing that you should start doing, like you said, they need to be attainable. So as a former plant manager, one of the things that we always did when we set goals for the plant, and even for WG, is we want our goals to be attainable. Because the worst thing you want to do is set some pie-in-the-sky goal that you can't meet. Everybody's excited for like the second Friday in January, and then we quit. So the goals have to be attainable. I think that's really, really a big deal. And I think if you're talking strictly about finances, if you're within that 5 to 7 year window, as we like to say on the show, where you're looking to retire in 5 to 7 years, then I think you need to do a financial checkup for sure, because I think it's a great idea to understand really where you're at. So I know a lot of people that come in to see us, they're engineers, they have spreadsheets and they've run their analysis, and it's always a great idea to get a second opinion and then kind of just really to see where you're at. And I would also update your savings goals. And the reason I bring that up is, and we talked about this a few weeks ago, currently, if you're age 60 to 63, starting this year, you can actually start doing what they call the super catch-up. So instead of the 7,500, now you can do 11,250 from 60 to 63. So you can do that additional catch-up amount. So updating those savings goals is probably a good idea. And then it's always a great idea as you start inching your way towards retirement to start eliminating as much debt as possible. Okay, so the house is important, but we've run into people that have like 2.75. Sometimes if you're military, retiree, or veteran, you've got like a 2.25 interest rate because you got a VA loan. In our mind, it's like, okay, that's pretty cheap. And I know that there are other people that say, pay your house off and, all that, but that's a really low interest rate to have on a house. So I'm not as concerned about that as long as you can cover that with income in retirement. But what I'm really more focused on when it comes to paying off debt is that revolving debt, that credit card debt, those car payments, try to get rid of those things just so that it doesn't weigh you down from a worry standpoint into retirement. It's probably a good idea also to take a look at your portfolio. Maybe it needs to be rebalanced. Take a look at the diversification and just see where you are from that standpoint relative to your retirement goals. I would also take a look at reviewing life insurance needs. We don't do a lot of life insurance at the office. If we do, it's usually term or either something geared more towards long-term care. But reviewing those life insurance needs, I think, is really good. And just overall, like we said before, just be realistic with your situation. And if you're going to start planning for retirement, one of the things I would just kind of toss in here is plan on something maybe happening to cause you to retire a little bit early. So with the numbers that you've come up with, I would kind of throw a curveball in there and say, hey, what happens if, I get sick or something, I have to retire a few years early. I think everybody who is planning for retirement today should plan on actually retiring early in case something happens. That way, you can kind of plan for that worst case type scenario, if you will.
Yeah. So address what if, plan for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Kind of hit that what if. Yeah.
I like that. Now, sometimes what happens is we, like we're talking about, we feel motivated at the start of the year and then we get sidetracked along the way. But what you guys do is you come alongside your clients, your retirees, and you kind of act as an accountability partner. Like my husband and I, we work out together. So we're accountability partners. So talk about that, Graham. When you're helping people work towards their financial goals, talk about how you act as an accountability partner.
Well, I'll out myself a little bit here and say that when I go to the dentist every 6 months, it's, kind of the same story over and over most of my life where, they do the whole thing and then at some point they ask, do you floss? And sadly, my answer is always no. And at least not nearly as much as I should.
Right.
And, that alone has not been enough as it probably should be, but hasn't been enough to get me to regularly floss. But at the same time, a lot of times after I go, I will at least make an effort to start doing that because I've been reminded. And then, when you have another appointment coming up, I really need to start doing that. So I think what we try to do on maybe a greater scale than your dental hygienist who just mentions
we're
it in
not going to
passing.
floss your teeth when you come in the office. I can promise you that.
Not going to floss your teeth. Yeah, that is out of our wheelhouse. But to get those reminders of those things that you need to be doing, because life happens and sometimes you just forget to do things that you need to do. I mean, a very common just baseline example here could be, you could be going into this next year and have a little cash set aside that you're not really sure what you need to do with it. And maybe you could make a Roth IRA contribution for 2024 before we get to, April 15th and tax day here. And just one of those things that sometimes it's good to just get a little tap on the shoulder and say, hey, I know you're a really busy person. Maybe you're traveling for work. Make sure you get this done. Hey, it's, March 15th. It's April 1st. Like, make sure you get this done. Towards the end of the year, we were talking about this, that we tend to get a lot more traffic on some things coming in when there's, required minimum distributions and qualified charitable distributions. And part of our job is to try to get that done throughout the year and obviously make sure people aren't forgetting about those types of things. So those aren't so much goals as just things that need to get done. But accountability partners, I think, are super valuable because at the end of the day, we don't want to look like we're unprepared, and having someone that you're going to meet with again that's going to kind of, scrutinize gently what you're doing and how you're doing it is a good way to give you motivation to actually, attain those goals. Yeah, and
I will kind of add to that a little bit. So something that we don't do, and I've had people ask me this before, is kind of help create a budget. I think most of us listening to the show are probably adult enough to create your own budget. What it really boils down to after the budget is created is discipline. And that discipline is not overspending. So one of the things that we don't do at the office is help you create a budget. We feel like that's something that you can go through your bank statement. You can look at what your bills cost. You can look at your income. And then there's countless numbers of apps out there that can help you kind of budget those types of things. What we're looking for is making sure that you're saving in the right retirement plans, the right way, the most tax efficient way, and making sure that you're putting in the max contribution if you can. So if you have the ability to max out a 401k or your retirement plan, we want you doing that. We don't want you putting in, say, 15%. So to Graham's point, I have had people come in before to the office and you can tell like they feel bad that they did something. So one of probably the more recent conversations that I can remember was like, we bought a boat. I'm like, oh man,
Ooh,
a boat.
That's a big one.
Great. The two best days with a boat is, what do they say, is the day you buy it and the day you sell it.
The day you sell it, yeah, because of all the expenses.
Yeah, and I'm of the mindset the best boat you can have is a friend's boat.
Is your friends or your family member, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So anyway, you can tell, I could tell, and I can tell in other situations that I've run across where there's a little bit of that guilt feeling. They don't want to say, oh man, I don't want to tell you what we did. So there is an accountability from that standpoint. But I think really what our goal is, we don't look at it as accountability. We look at it as, from an efficient standpoint. We want to make sure that you're kind of doing the right things in the right way with your retirement plan. If you have the ability to do the Roth IRAs, as Graham mentioned, are we doing that? I'll give you an example. Let's say, for an example, you've got somebody is still, let's say you're still working, okay, and you're past 70 and a half, because there are, believe it or not, there still are some that are working this late in life, or maybe, maybe the husband is past 70 and a half and maybe the wife is still working. And there's a way to, one of the ways I would say how you can make their situation as efficient is if the husband has an IRA, for him to do a QCD, which, he's required at this point to take a QCD. So an RMD. So do the QCD to not have to pay taxes on the money that you have to take out. And let's say he's given to the church. So you're going to slide that money via QCD over to the church. And then you're going to take the money that you would have given to the church and turn around and invest it into a Roth IRA. So that's a really good, efficient way to do that. And I know that's probably confusing to some people out there, but that's what we do when we sit down with the families. We start looking at how money is going into the accounts, making sure that's done the most efficient way possible, and seeing if we can hopefully try to reduce some of that tax obligation.
So I want to give out your information because we've gone this far. I want to make sure if people have any questions regarding what we're talking about, the number is 256-937-2010. That is how you can reach out to Cris, set up an appointment, go in for a discovery session, okay? This is where you'll meet with Cris and you can meet with the rest of the team, meet everybody at WG Financial Group. And they would love to guide you about your retirement. And that's what this is all about. We do this radio show every single weekend. We talk about these things you need to address for retirement planning. Again, that phone number, 256-937-2010. Call or text the word visit. And then always remember, WGFinancialGroup.com is the website too. And we just thank you so much for joining us. This is the Rocket City Retirement Show. So, all right, let's talk about, and we kind of touched on this earlier, Cris, when, we set goals and then we do know life happens, and sometimes, we're forced to make changes with those plans that we've written. Talk about that and how you would meet with someone, help make adjustments to a retirement plan when life throws them a curveball.
Yeah, so there is, we said it before on the show, life happens in a lot of cases. One of the things we want to make sure that if something like that happens, we want to do all we can not to abandon saving in a retirement plan. So depending on what the curveball might be, it may mean making adjustments to the amount of money that they're actually saving. So let's take, for an example, the 401k. Obviously, and this is just common knowledge to most people, even if you've had a really bad life event where you have to make a change and you can't save as much, you got to find a way to make sure you're at least getting the free match. So that would be an adjustment. Maybe we can't max it out anymore because we have to pay for something else. You got to put in enough to get the free match. That would be, like I said, that would be kind of an adjustment there. There could be an adjustment of just working longer because sometimes life throws hard things at us. And we may look at the numbers and say, you know what, you really need to work another 1 or 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I've seen this happen before. There's been examples of individuals that we've come into contact with where, we would love to onboard them as a client, but we're not going to tell them they can retire just for the sake of telling them they can retire. My answer to, one of the couples that is coming to mind is, hey, you need to work a little bit longer, probably another 2 years. And then we can reconvene and kind of see where things are at. So the unfortunate thing is it can be challenging, and retirement plans are usually, in my opinion, you can set them up, but you have to build in flexibility because life is going to have and will throw curveballs at you. So you need to be able to make some changes along the way, as we like to say.
I was meeting with a client the other day, and I think, Cris, you can attest to this too with how long you've been doing this. A lot of times, when we're doing initial meetings with people, we'll set something up and then, we have our review schedule, and it's definitely not uncommon that you meet with someone in a meeting, a current client that is, during a review, and the meeting kind of ends up going in a direction you weren't expecting to take it in, based on new information, based on a big change in their life. Just the other day, had a meeting with a client, and we were kind of going over a lot of our typical review things, talking about giving and the accounts and doing some rebalancing and, kind of some of the general cleanup items, making sure their estate planning is in order. And in that meeting, I learned that his wife was dealing with, some pretty serious cancer at this point, and not something that we had known about before. And that sort of shifted the tone of the meeting in a lot of ways to talk about some things that we hadn't talked about before. Specifically, talked a lot about Roth conversions. And that was not something that we had, talked about in the past, not something that necessarily was going to be something we were going to push really hard based on, asset level and all of that. However, when you get into a scenario like that, there's a decent chance, and obviously we hope and pray that this doesn't happen, but there's a chance that he ends up going from married filing joint tax brackets to the single filer tax brackets in the next couple of years. And so when we're talking about scenarios like this, then we have to start seriously talking about, okay, controlling what we can control. Maybe we pay some of these taxes now just as a preventative, and hopefully nothing happens. And, we just still not a bad thing to do, even if, they both live long and happy lives, which we hope they do. But it's a conversation at that point that you need to have, because you don't want to get to the point where something does happen and they say, well, why did we never talk about this beforehand? Now I'm having to pay so much in taxes. My RMDs are so much, and, so much of it is just getting sent out. So it is very common that those meetings go in other directions. And, you do have to be ready for that, because just unexpected things happen in life.
Yeah. It's Graham sitting. I know who you're talking about. And we were shocked actually to kind of find that out. So you're right. Just being able to, you have to start thinking in different directions. So, especially when you're talking about the loss of a spouse, you're looking at going into that single filer bracket. That's a good point. And, if a family has, a ton of IRA money, there's going to be RMDs due later down the road. We don't know exactly where brackets are going to go and going to be in the future, so that's, you kind of caught me off guard with that one. I was expecting that story there, Graham.
Yeah.
So it can be tough.
It is tough. It happened with my brother-in-law, my husband's brother. And here we were like, yeah, we're going to go to Italy someday. We went to take us to Italy because he always went there because he had this work. He was in men's clothing, and that was our bucket list. And he was going to take us to the place where their family was from. And then he passed away, young at 66, so just something you're not planning on. And that's certainly a big curveball. And then it changes for everybody, and the spouses too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just while we're on this topic, it's like I said, it caught me big time off guard here, but it's just a reminder, if you're listening to this show, like we're not promised tomorrow. None of us are. And we don't know if our spouse is going to be there tomorrow. And one of, our motto is plan, retire, play. That's what we've come up with here at the office. So it's, WG Financial Group, plan, retire, play. And it's important that you really try to enjoy your retirement years. And I would go as far as even your pre-retirement years, as long as you're hitting your savings marks, make sure that you're enjoying life, enjoying your spouse, enjoying your kids, enjoying your grandkids. We kind of like to say this at the office, if you want to die the richest person in the graveyard, that's your prerogative. But we're all about making memories, and we want the families to take the money that they've saved and earned all of their life and make memories with their kids and with their grandkids and with their spouses. And I've met with men, and I'm one of these men. As I get older, I'm like, I don't want to travel, and my wife is definitely one that likes to go and do things. And I've talked about this a number of times on the show, but, men, get out of your comfort zone, get in some social circles and do the traveling with your wife, because I've sat with enough people now throughout my almost 20-year career at this point where people lose people, and it is a very difficult time. And I just cannot stress to you enough that while you're young and able and you have the means to do it, get out and do those fun things in retirement, even if you don't want to do it. And again, I'm kind of talking to the men here because a lot of times it's the men, just go, because, like myself, I may not want to go a lot of places Jen wants to go, but once I get there, I'm like, all right, this is actually kind of fun. And then I don't want to admit it to her. Like, I don't want to tell her this is really a great time, but it is normally. Once I get outside my comfort zone, I get a little bit comfortable, I'm good. Now I'll do most anything, but I ain't jumping out of an airplane or anything crazy like that. But, as far as travel, maybe some places I don't really want to go, I'll go, and I may go kicking and screaming, but by the time I get there, I'll have fun. So anyway, we're about halfway through the show. So again, if you're catching the show in the car on the way to church on a Sunday, 30-minute version, you can hop out to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and pick up the entire episode. Hope everybody's enjoying the show. 256-937-2010. Give us a call for your discovery session. 256-937-2010.
With so many worries in life, market volatility shouldn't be on your list. Help ensure your retirement plan is stable and independent of market swings. Just get in touch with Cris Wallace at 256-937-2010. That's 256-937-2010 to start planning.
Quarters, just 25 cents. That's hardly anything, right? But Cris Wallace and his team at WG Financial see quarters a little differently. A quarter is a lot when it's a quarter of your retirement savings. Now, do you want to pay 25% or more in taxes during your retirement? Well, Cris can create a plan to help address that. Now, if the only time you think about taxes is when you file them, you don't have a tax strategy. But it's not too late to get one with the help from Cris Wallace. So act now to make sure you're not paying a quarter, dime, or even a penny more than you should. Call Cris Wallace and his team at WG Financial at 256-937-2010 to schedule your personalized tax strategy session. A quarter saved is a quarter earned. Call 256-937-2010 now. That's 256-937-2010. Investment advisory services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Firm may not give tax advice.
If you're pondering the longevity of your retirement savings with questions like, is my nest egg sufficient? Or how long will my retirement funds last? Consider scheduling a session with Cris Wallace. Text VISIT to 256-937-2010. Again, text VISIT to 256-937-2010 now to set up your appointment.
And this is the Rocket City Retirement Show. So happy to have you along with us today. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Cris Wallace, certified financial planner, financial advisor, and president of WG Financial Group. And then also joining us is Graham Bauer, who is a certified financial planner at the firm as well. So
he's also a financial advisor too.
And a financial advisor.
just want to make sure that's clear so compliance don't come back to us.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, real quick, I want to ask you a question. So looking back on 2024 rather, are there any lessons that you learned like in 2024 that you could? Are you talking
to me or to Graham?
I am turning it back on you.
Wait, I'm supposed to be the one asking the questions.
Yeah, so it can be anything. 2024. Did you have a lesson in 2024? You're like, you know what? I can take that, move forward, and really.
I don't know. This is hard for me because I have, I'm torn between, I'm busy at work, I'm busy with my home life and my grandkids.
Making memories, right?
Yeah, making memories. So I'm kind of right in the middle of that. Time of life, which is just wonderful, and I'm totally enjoying it. And yet I love my career too. So I think my time with the grandkids, I would say, so what if your back hurts? Pick them up anyway. Because they like to be held and I love to hold them. And so I think for me, because honestly, I'm back in the chiropractor again, messing with my back. And he and I were talking and it doesn't matter. They're not going to be young for very long. I'm not going to be able to pick them up much longer. So do it anyway. And I totally loved, we get asked over there a lot to watch the kids. And my husband and I might look at each other and go, okay, here we go again. But you know what? It's the best. So I need to just embrace it because pretty soon those little kids are going to be busy with their own lives and we're not going to be needed as much,
Sounds like you might need to embrace that back with a brace too.
I swear. I know, man. Oh, I'm feeling better. I am.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that would be it. Just the balance between work and my beautiful grandchildren.
Yeah. So I think a lot of retirees listen to the show can probably relate and hopefully take some of that advice as well. Let me turn it into a financial lesson.
Yeah, so please.
If we look back at 2024, and I don't know, I'll probably look this up as I'm talking. So I think it's important to realize that you need to just stay invested. So if there's, a lesson from 2024, it's to stay invested and don't look at your investments with your political glasses. So the S&P has just a quick search here. It looks, I thought it was closer to 2025, but I thought it was closer to 25%, but the last week was kind of down. The market was up about a little bit more than 23% in 2024.
Oh, okay.
So, the message here, the lesson here is stay invested and really don't look at your investments with your political glasses because that can cause you to make some really bad decisions.
Right.
And if we think about the previous administration, so let's just say you're on the right side of the fence, okay? And you can't stand the administration that was in office and soon to be out of office. Let's say you couldn't stand them. But if you look at the returns over the last 3 out of 4 years, the market was up more than 20%, I believe, 3 out of those 4 years. And so we had the down year in 2022, And then, so 2021 was, plus 20. 2022 was negative, around 20. And then 23 and 24 were both positive, plus 20% years. So you got to stay invested, because if you start trying to make political decisions with your investments, then it turns into somewhat of an emotional game. And I get it. There are some congressional things that may lend itself to be a little bit better in the investment world. But what I'm talking about is the, I don't want to call it hatred, maybe it is, but the dislike for the party that's in there, and getting very emotional about that, and then making a really bad decision with your investments. So that would be the lesson on a financial side, on the financial side of things.
Stay invested.
Stay invested, yeah, and just take those political glasses off when you start looking at your investments.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think to add to that a little bit, one thing that I think really littered 2024 in a similar way that, maybe a year like 2021 or 2019 did is, at times when the market is really good, everybody starts to feel like an expert, and everybody starts to tell you they're an expert. So again, I think going back to the staying invested side of things, like when the market's really good and when like cryptocurrencies are going crazy, like you're just going to go online, you're going to go on Facebook or YouTube, and you're going to hear people say things and make claims and, encourage you to go one way because they made all this money doing this. And it's probably going to be, for a lot of people, not tempting at all, because a lot of people we work with and in this area are pretty risk adverse. But for some people, it might be really tempting, and it might say, oh, this sounds like a great thing. Maybe I should be more active, this, that, and the other. I'll say for myself personally, I'll out myself again a little bit here. I didn't monkey around much this year with my own retirement, but I did a little bit. I did like one time, in the summertime, because I started to feel like, maybe I'm a little bit smarter. And I slightly underperformed what I would have done if I had just left my money in the ETF that I invest in my Roth IRA. I'm just talking about my Roth. Yeah. I should have just not touched it. And, I do this for a living, but at the end of the day, the more, like people say, I think it's Warren Buffett that said it's like a bar of soap. The more you handle it, the smaller it gets. So I think it gets really tempting when we see these really good returns for multiple years coming in. But again, it's not worth it to try to be beating the market. You're going to be way better off just leaving it alone.
Yeah, I think, people have that FOMO. They really do. It's a real thing, fear of missing out, FOMO, in case you're not sure what that means. It's a real thing. And that causes some anxiety on I'm missing out side. I got to jump in. And that's also not a great thing as well, because now all of a sudden you've made this emotional decision because you're missing out. You got to jump in. I got to do this. Everybody's doing it, kind of a thing. And Kramer says it on TV, on one of the news channels, and I got to do it. So anyway, yeah.
That's good. That's good. Okay. So that's a lesson, one financial lesson we could take from last year. Are there any others? Anything else that happened that we could take lessons from?
Well, I think those are two of the biggest ones. I mean, obviously, I think you want to have a plan. I mean, we harp on that a lot when it comes to retirement planning. It's really more about the plan than it is just the investments. It's not that the investments aren't important. It is. That's going to be part of the engine that makes everything go. But there's just so much more that goes into retirement planning from a tax perspective, from a retirement income generation standpoint, Medicare, Social Security claiming strategies, all of that. So, obviously that would be a lesson for, people that are listening to the show now, is to start thinking about your retirement plan if you're 5 to 7 years out. We get a lot of calls actually where people, they'll do one of two things. They'll call and they'll hang up. So we have a call center. Yeah. And I always apologize. Like, we use a call center on the weekends so that we can enjoy spending time with our families as well. So our call center sometimes does call center things, which means sometimes they'll hang up on you by accident, or you don't get the information like you would if you talk to somebody in my office, like during the week. Usually it's my wife that calls back, and she's really, really good on the phone. So we do use a call center. So sometimes people just call and hang up because they're like, oh, I've been meaning to call, and there they are on the radio again, and they'll call and hang up to get the number in their phone.
Okay.
Yeah. So we try to call those numbers back at times. But if you do that, just leave a quick message with the call center, because then it's like, it comes to us in an email And then, like I said, somebody from our office reaches out on Monday morning after the staff meeting to do that. So they'll either call and hang up. That's one thing. Or they'll call and they'll say, I've been listening for a while and I've been meaning to call for a while. So I will tell you, if you're listening to the show and you're 5 to 7 years out at this point, you're in that zone where you have to be thinking about it. I mean, you're close at this point. I watch a lot of NFL football. I know Graham does as well. I mean, you're like on the 15-yard line at this point. From a football analogy standpoint, and you want to make sure you get it in the end zone. You don't want to kick a field goal and have to continue working a little bit longer. So I think 5 to 7 is a good time frame to really start looking at your retirement plan.
Okay, yeah, got to get that financial house in order, create that plan. And the thing is, we always talk about this. About a third of Americans, have the plan, but the rest of us don't. And people without a plan are going to feel less confident about their future.
They will. And I think when you're talking about that percentage of people that don't have a plan, or even I would say the people that have a plan, I would argue that even the 30 some odd % that say they have it really only look at their investments. They probably don't look at things the way that we look at things.
Right.
And the questions, because I can just tell you the feedback that I've received is like, wow, nobody's ever asked me that question before. Like not even my attorney. And that's because we are, certified financial planners and financial advisors. So there's a depth to some of the training that we've been through. Plus, there's a lot of gray hair in my head now. So there's a lot of meetings and experiences that I've been a part of. And, you recognize that everybody's situation is different. I would say, Graham, you've sat with a number of people that are, clients of ours. Everybody's situation's a little bit different, but there's pattern recognition about certain things.
It's like snowflakes a little bit. They're all a little bit different, but if you zoom out, there's a lot of similarities. Yeah. But once you really get in there, put it under a microscope, you can see all those little minute differences in everybody's life. So it's definitely I think like you said about in that 5 to 7 year range, like really start thinking about it. It's always surprising to me when someone comes in and they're like, I want to retire, next month or something. And it's not, for a lot of those people, they still can. And it's not even like a catastrophic thing. But if it were me, I think I would want to have a little bit more assurance well before I put my 2 weeks or, month notice in that I'm going to be done working completely. Because it's a huge decision for a lot of people. And, I'll say that I think maybe some people feel like, and this is true, that it is somewhat reversible. Like you can go back to work, but you will most likely really not want to. And I think that is the thing that you have to think about a lot more. I mean, when you were a kid and you were on summer break for, elementary school through college, you probably weren't super excited to get back to school after that break was over, because now you've created a new routine, a new pattern. You have maybe some new hobbies you've been working on, and you're probably not super excited to have to break that and go back and sit in the classroom. And I think that's how a lot of retirees are going to feel if they retire for 6 months and then realize, oh, I got to go back to my old job, or I got to go find a new job. It's also really hard to find a new job a lot of times when the employer might be thinking, well, you already retired once, you're like becoming like the Brett Favre of engineering. Like, when are you going to be done?
The Tom Brady.
Yeah,
Tom
exactly.
Brady.
Yeah. So I don't think that is what you should be betting on. If it were me, I would and what we try to do for our clients is give them that assurance that, if you just get bored and want to go back to work, you can, but we don't want you to get in a situation where that is, going to be the case. So planning ahead of time, is really going to be the best way to avoid that.
Yeah. And we all know that like discrimination's not supposed to happen, but it does. You look at a resume and like, okay, when did this person graduate high school? Well, there's no date. Okay. When they graduate, college. People look at that kind of stuff. I actually told Jen before that if I ever had to interview again, which I won't, unless I'm interviewing myself just for the fun of it.
Right.
So I ended up graduating in 2021. And so I could fill out a resume and put my 2021 graduation date from college on there.
Gosh,
and they're like,
so
man,
funny.
Let's call this spring chicken. And then I walk in, I got all this gray hair.
Yeah.
And they're like looking at me funny, like, what?
Man.
You just graduated? Yeah,
Yeah, they're like, are you here for the internship? Or? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny. So we're talking about this plan, okay? And your plan is called the Rite Retirement Process that you take people through. Rite is an acronym, okay? So walk us through that, Cris, and explain what each letter means.
Yeah, so the R in the process is for retirement income because there is really no income or there's no retirement without income. So you have to figure out how you're going to generate income, what accounts is it going to come from, what's the most tax efficient way to be pulling from those accounts, should you be Roth converting, et cetera. So retirement income is important because that's why it's the R. It's the foundational piece of your retirement plan. And then we get into investments and insurance with the I there. So investments, we want to take a look at the risk. We want to take a look at the fees that you're paying within your investments. You want to actually take a look at what you're paying your advisor as well, because I mean, some of the fees that we run across are a little bit, they're a little bit high on the high side. I would say that. So, and I would say just as far as investments, because that's part of what we look at is just the fees. If you're listening to the show, I would ask my advisor, like, what are you charging me, to manage my investments? And don't let them like skate around it, because some people might say, oh, well, we gave you a form. It's like, no, I want to know what you're charging me. Tell me exactly what the percentage is, because most advisors work off our percentage model. So I would find that out, because if not, we're going to dig around and try to help you find it out. But it's a lot easier if you go straight to the advisor and ask the question there. The insurance for the investment, or the I in the process, again, is just, when it comes to insurance, it's basic. At its basic form, it's transfer of risk. So we want to make sure that you don't need any insurance for whatever reason, whether that's long-term care, Medicare supplement, annuities for income, or you maybe term life insurance, or like I said, long-term care insurance, something like that. And then the T is for tax-efficient strategies. So we want to take a look at the situation, run it through our eyes, take a look at the return, and really decide if there's an opportunity to make the retirement a little bit more tax efficient by making some adjustments. And we've seen a number of opportunities, through the years where I think we could help people, whether that be Roth conversions. I mentioned a scenario earlier in the show where, doing a QCD and one spouse is actually still working, you're eligible to make a Roth IRA contribution. So, taking that money you would have given to the church in that case and investing it into a Roth IRA would be just a little easy strategy, but a lot of people aren't going to think of that. But that's what we look at under the T, is the taxes of things. And then of course the E is for estate and legacy planning. So we want to make sure that when you pass away, your assets are passing on to your heirs in the most tax efficient manner possible. We're probably asking some questions centered around legal documents. We're not attorneys. We don't do wills or trust. But as certified financial planner professionals, we do want to ask some questions about that. Make sure that you do have those documents in place. If not, we'll refer you out to somebody. Or if you have an attorney that you work with, that's fine as well. So that's really what the process kind of looks like, Luann, from that standpoint. I did want to cover a couple things that we really didn't get into in the open of the show. We were talking a lot about New Year's and what we did, and Graham kind of face planning, in New York City and getting a concussion.
I'm so sorry, Graham.
Yeah, which by the way, when he told me this, I was like, what?
I know.
This happened, and he was communicating just via text to me and Jen.
Yeah.
Just about, hey, I might need to take a couple more days of relaxation because this is what happened. And we were both like, what in the world?
Oh,
so pretty wild story.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, so we're glad he's okay. But let's get into a little bit of some market type stuff.
Sure.
So NVIDIA, I don't know if you saw this today, Graham. They are now the most valuable company by market cap in the entire world.
Really?
$3.7 trillion.
3.7 trillion. NVIDIA.
NVIDIA.
IDIA. NVIDIA. Okay.
Yes. And so I'm sure, and I'm trying not to get political on the show. Maybe this will get a little bit political, but that's okay. I'll keep it straight and narrow as I can. There's just been a lot of changes since the election globally. Like the big thing that happened just yesterday was Justin Trudeau.
Yeah,
stepping
that was
down.
crazy.
What was that about?
He's been prime minister for 11 years now.
It's been a while.
Years.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how long, but it's been a while. And
he stepped out.
Yeah. And then you've got, if you saw this today come across kind of the headlines, this was shocking. But Meta, aka Facebook, is changing the fact checking, and they're actually they're doing a couple things. They're changing it to more of a community notes, which kind of mimics what X is doing, Elon Musk and X.
Yeah.
They kind of have a community notes. If something is said, there's a community notes that'll come in and correct you if you're incorrect there. So it's not necessarily fact checkers. They call it community notes. So Facebook is moving more towards that model.
Okay.
Which I think is a good thing.
I do too. So people can't just say things and then other people take it as truth.
Right. And they're also moving that from California to Texas. Did you guys see that?
No.
as well?
Oh, I didn't see that.
No.
Are they moving to Austin?
What?
I don't know if it's Austin. I didn't read into it that deep. I just know it's leaving California.
Really? That's shocking.
Going to Texas. Now, here's the other thing. Did you guys see that they have put Dana White, which he's the head of UFC, they put him on the board of directors. Did you guys
For
see
Meta?
that? Yeah.
On the board of directors
Seriously,
of
Yeah.
Facebook.
Fact
Is he a
check,
big shareholder or something?
fact check me on that just to make sure.
So
I'm pretty
who's
sure on
Dana
that.
White, UFC?
Yeah, so he runs the UFC, the Ultimate Fight Championship.
Oh, that guy, Dana
Ultimate
White.
Fighting Championship.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, that
What?
seems to be true. That's really odd. I didn't.
yeah.
What? Oh,
So, like I said, kind of
that.
the world is kind of changing a little bit. It really is. And then you have, Trump with these, and I'm doing my air quotes here, proposals. I don't know if you guys saw this over the past couple of weeks,
The
but
Gulf of America.
the Gulf of America, changing the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
Oh, really? I
Didn't see
part.
that.
I heard
Yeah.
Canada
Buying-
becoming a 51st state.
Yeah, buying Greenland is
Yes,
another
heard
one.
that.
He wants to buy Greenland.
Not the first time we've been down that road.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so I think it was somebody in Ontario. I don't remember, however, the structure is in the government in Canada or whatever, but he kind of fired back and said that they want to buy Minnesota and Alaska. Did you hear
No.
that? So
No,
there's
that's
just a lot
funny.
of stuff, kind of going on in the world today. Argentina was one of the best performing countries of 2024.
Really?
Yeah, they've done a fantastic job of driving down inflation, and so
Not
some good-
Venezuela.
no, not Venezuela, Argentina.
Yeah.
Maybe they can work on that next.
They need
But
to. Yeah.
the very concerning thing for me as we kind of head towards the end of the show is the 10-year Treasury yield. Have you been watching that, Graham? How it's kind of climbed back up?
Yeah, over the past few months, yeah.
Yeah, it's climbed all the way back to 4.7. This is a little bit strange because this normally doesn't happen when the feds make a pivot to start cutting rates. It's actually kind of going back up again. So usually you see the 10-year Treasury yield fall. So it's going back up again. I think that's concerning because, one, I think investors are concerned about inflation being a little bit sticky. Not terrible, but just not coming down as fast as I think the Feds once hoped that it would. So I think we're seeing a little bit of a reversal there. What that would also tell me is that the 10-year Treasury yield probably overcorrected a couple months, which usually one of the things I like to say on the show is markets tend to overcorrect, people tend to overreact. And I think we're seeing some of that reversal there, especially with some of the languaging that the Feds have used here lately. I definitely don't think there's going to be another cut in January. I think that they hold right now because the economy is still strong enough. And I think they hold in January. And I think the next time they meet, and Graham can maybe check me as I'm kind of going through this, I think the next time they meet is in March. And I would probably say they don't cut in March either. I think there's going to be a hold there for sure.
Yeah, there's right now, at least the futures are not leaning towards a probable cut at any time through the summer, actually.
Yeah.
At either the January, March, May, or June meeting.
Yeah. Yes.
So yeah, I definitely agree that in some ways the rate cuts last year almost felt obligatory. Like they had said they were going to do something and they felt like they needed to do something.
Yeah.
But they almost felt reluctant to me by the Fed. Like they'll give us a little bit of a rate cut, but they might have not really wanted to do that second one. So I wouldn't be surprised to see us holding for a little bit longer, which I will admit I'm a little bit disappointed about as, someone who will hopefully be in the market for a home within the next few years. But, I do think that it's ultimately probably the right decision as they, figure out what's going to be the path forward with inflation and unemployment.
Right. I think they kind of have their backs against the wall. Like you want to cut to kind of help stimulate monetary policy here, but by doing so, you're also stimulating inflation, and it's not fully under control. It's better, And I know there's people out there listening going, no, Chris, you see the price. I get it. I shop at the same store as y'all do. I get it. It's definitely still expensive, but it's not as bad as it once was in terms of the just rapid rate, the rising of prices. They've kind of, to some degree, is kind of leveled off. But now we have the feds with, okay, do we cut rates? And the really bad part is if we start to slip off in a recession, like that's one of the first things they're going to do is start trimming rates. Well, what if inflation is still kind of there and still not completely under control? So then you have to ask yourself, do they cut rates? And if they do they just allow the recession to kind of correct inflation? Because that is, I could see them kind of having that strategy as well, is like, okay, we can't quite get it under control, so we'll just kind of not decrease rates anymore for a while until we slip off into a recession and let the recession or a potential recession kind of finish off inflation. That's in the back of my mind, kind of a concern. The other concern here, and it's not so much of a concern if nothing happens, but with this 10-year Treasury yield kind of climbing back up, that is bad for those unrealized losses at the banks, because we know as yields rise, bond values fall. So a lot of banks that have invested in longer duration bonds are seeing those values kind of drop again. And I know that's something real big on social media that I've seen is like, oh, unrealized losses, the banks are, in trouble and all of this. But the reality is this: when you purchase a bond like that, as long as you hold it to maturity, it doesn't really matter, because you're going to get, you're going to get par back once it matures. So right now, from a value standpoint, yeah, it's not looking good on paper, but as long as you're holding those bonds, not a lot to be too concerned about there.
So no run on the bank, guys.
Yes.
That's the message.
No
you heard it here first.
Yeah,
Please don't run on any banks.
Yeah, so we normally do that kind of stuff at the front of the show, but we got to talking about all the New Year's stuff. It was kind of fun. It's good to be back. So I think if you're listening to the show, and like we said, just to kind of recap, what we've talked about here today is just, I wouldn't classify it a resolution. Like it's okay if you want to come in the office and meet with us and call, hey, we're here for our resolution meeting. We want you to do it for your family and for your spouse, for your kids, for your grandkids, so that you can start putting together a pathway to get you into retirement and maybe through retirement. Even if you're retired, I would say half the people that come in to see us are already retired. They're just coming in to say, hey, listen, we want to kind of hand some of this over to you because, frankly, we don't want to worry about it. I've had people tell me before, hey, I want to travel. I want to enjoy my retirement. I don't want to be thinking about this. That's your job. That's why I want you on my team. So if you're in that spot 5 to 7 years out, give us a call. We'll do a discovery session. And just kind of as a reminder, this discovery session lasts about an hour and 15 minutes, depends on questions. We want you to ask a lot of questions. Nothing we talk about in that meeting will be shared with anyone. It's all confidential. And at the end of the meeting, we'll decide whether it makes sense to get back together in what we call a high-level strategy meeting. And we'll come in and do a secondary meeting where we kind of look at things from a high level, tell you what we think. And then sometimes people are ready to start working with us at that point. If not, and sometimes they want more detail. And then we do a third meeting. And usually by the end of the third meeting, a family knows whether or not they want to work with us just by the level of detail and planning that we've gone through. So if that's you and you're listening to the show, 256-937-2010 is the way to set that up. 256-937-2010. Give us a call for your discovery session. Luann, welcome back. Graham, welcome back.
Yes.
Hope everybody has had an awesome show or awesome time listening to the show. Hope everybody has a great weekend. And remember to serve every person in every situation with a servant heart.
A Roth conversion is a taxable event and may have several tax-related consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.
Investment advisory products and services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Insurance products are offered through the insurance business WG Insurance Services. WG Financial Group is an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through AE Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. AEWM does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by WG Insurance Services are not subject to investment advisor requirements. AWM and WG Insurance Services are not affiliated companies. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. WG Financial Group is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by WG Financial Group. This radio show is a paid placement.